Welcome everyone to my first spooky review of the 2016 Halloween special. And I wanted to kick off the special with one of my favorite stories. Last year I actually reviewed the 1931 version with Fredric March of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I mentioned back then, a year ago, that I would do a review of the Spencer Tracy one, the 1941 version, which is what we're looking at tonight. So the 1941 Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde stars Spencer Tracy, has Lana Turner, Ingrid Bergman, and Donald Crisp. So MGM required the rights to the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The 1931 version was actually made by Paramount, and MGM actually, they attempted to destroy every 1931 copy of the movie that they could, interestingly enough, because I guess they just wanted it out of history or for some reason. So they got Victor Fleming, the great Victor Fleming, man who made Gone with the Wind, to direct this movie, and it's a bit sad because honestly this movie doesn't stand anywhere even close to the 1931 version. I'll just say that right at the start. So Spencer Tracy, when you think about him, is he really fit to play Dr. Jekyll, a Victorian era doctor in London? Not really. Can he play Mr. Hyde? Well, we'll get to that. So Lana Turner, she plays his sweet, innocent love, and Ingrid Bergman plays the sort of loose, bad girl of the story who Mr. Hyde abuses. And it's worth noting that this story is the exact same story as the story in the 1931 version. It's essentially a remake of that movie, and this story strays very far from the book, as I mentioned in my other review. If you want to hear more about the plot of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I recommend you watching my other review of the 1931 version, because it's the same story. So Ingrid Bergman, when she was asked to be in this movie, she begged Victor Fleming, can I please play Ivy? Can I please play the bad girl, the sort of loose girl? And in the 1931 version, Miriam Hopkins played that character and was outstanding. She really fit the prostitute character well in that movie. So she was a prostitute in the 31 version, but since there were more regulations by 1941, of course she's not a prostitute, but like some sort of bar girl. She's a barmaid. So Ingrid Bergman begged to have this character because she didn't want to be typecasted as always playing the sweet girl, the innocent, the character where she's like a nun, that type of character. She wanted to break out of that. So Victor Fleming said, okay, I'll let you play Ivy, and Lana Turner ended up playing the fiance of Dr. Jekyll, and I thought this was a huge error. I think Ingrid Bergman, she wasn't very convincing as this loose barmaid, so the character just didn't fit well because she was too nice, too goody-good to play Ivy. And in fact, in this movie, I felt like it focused more on Ivy's life, and we kind of felt more pity for Ivy in this story. And one of the main things that I want to note about this version compared to the 31 version was I went into great depth in my 1931 version of how great Fredric March was and how much energy he had in the film, and especially in the transformation scenes. So in the transformation scenes in this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, they did it in such a lazy way. So Spencer Tracy, he takes the potion. This is the first transformation scene. After he takes the potion, the camera starts to move away from him, and then it shows him pass out and fall on the ground. The camera strays away from him, and he starts having these visions of Ingrid Bergman and Lana Turner. So we don't even see his face changing. And when he wakes up from his visions, of course, he looks different. He's Mr. Hyde. And the makeup, honestly, he just looks uglier. He doesn't look like a monster. That was my biggest problem with Spencer Tracy's Hyde, is honestly, he was just ugly and mean. He was not interesting to watch. Doesn't compare at all to the Fredric March's 1931 version at all. And in fact, he just kind of felt like a bully. He did not feel like a monster. This is not the Mr. Hyde that I always imagine, hopping around the cities of London. That award definitely goes to Fredric March. So it was just a very lazy transformation scene. And then when it started to show transformation scenes where it showed his face. And Spencer Tracy, all he did was just kind of stare. Stare, and it would show the layers keep changing, him changing into Mr. Hyde. So he'd stare. Whereas if you've seen the 1931 version, and you have to see that movie, he's choking, and he's you'll anybody who's seen it knows what I'm talking about. Just so much energy. So Spencer Tracy's Mr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll, was just kind of lazy when he was transforming. This movie was definitely a failure. Well, it did make some money. It made about $300,000, which isn't bad. But Spencer Tracy got beat up by critics hardcore. In fact, one writer, when he came onto the set and he saw Spencer Tracy's Mr. Hyde, he said in a sneeringly way, "Is he Dr. Jekyll right now, or is he Mr. Hyde? I can't tell. There's no big difference in his Jekyll and Hyde." Spencer Tracy went on to say that he regretted doing this, and it was his least favorite starring role that he ever performed in. And it's funny because Fredric March sent a famous telegram to Spencer Tracy thanking him for the career boost, because everyone just was remembering the 1931 version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So that's pretty funny that he sent a telegram to Tracy saying thanks. Also, another fun fact is that Spencer Tracy showed up to Clark Gable and Carol Lombard's wedding anniversary in the Mr. Hyde makeup, just to poke fun and have fun there. But all in all, Spencer Tracy's Mr. Hyde was just his Jekyll was too bland, and his Hyde was not frightening at all. So there you have it, folks. I don't recommend you watch this movie. I can't recommend it when the 1931 version exists. Please go watch that movie. That's going to be it for this spooky review. Hopefully we have many more to come for this Halloween fest. Be sure to like and subscribe and write in the comments. Have a spooky one, guys.